Should I? Nope, nope, nope. Wow, I'd say it was pretty dramatic. It was a dramatic time. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. That was super sweet of you. And welcome back to my second installment of filming a video in my parents' house, in my mom's office. Do you want to see my childhood artwork today? I knew you wanted to see my childhood artwork. That's so sweet of you. Let's go see it. All right, so over here we got one of your classic, you know those like velvet pictures that you used to color in? It's got like a nice black velvet. And this one's so old it's curling in on itself. I did a little sun over the ocean. Oh, how sweet. And then we got some sweet poetry I did for my mom. She's so sweet for saving them. But yeah, that's my childhood artwork. What is this? These are compliments somebody wrote about me. I think this was like an elementary school exercise. I like your hair and eyes. You are an awesome friend. Geez, be more vague, am I right? No, it's okay, it was very sweet. All right, I hope you enjoyed seeing my childhood artwork that hangs in my mom's office, but that's not what this video is about. You did not click on this video to see my childhood artwork and to find out the very vague and lame compliments that my fellow kindergarten classmates wrote about me. No, you clicked on this video because you, like me, have an interest in rating influencer makeup. I got this idea because you guys are aware, you guys are tuned into the beauty community, right? You know that more influencers keep coming out with their own brands every single day. And although I've commented on how influencer collabs seem to be pulling back a little bit and intellectual property collabs are on the forefront, there still are a ton of influencer collabs. And a couple years ago, I'd say mainly 2018, a little bit into 2019, I was buying all of them, you guys. I was so influenced to buy influencer makeup, and I've tried a ton of it. I've tried makeup from influencer makeup brands, and I've also tried a ton of makeup from influencer makeup collabs. And I thought we would sit down here today and I would give you my brutally honest opinions about all of them. Because with an oversaturated beauty market, not everything's gonna be a winner, but a lot of them are winners. So, if that sounds like a topic that is interesting to you and you want to hear me rate a bunch of influencer makeup, then I encourage you to please subscribe and keep on watching 'cause it's coming at you right now. Alrighty, let me scooch over here so I can put the pictures on the screen because I don't have most of them anymore because most of them did not work out. But I do have one. Oh my gosh, look, you can see my mom's exercise ball. Should I move that? Is that distracting? Okay, I'll move it. Should I? Nope. Back to business. Oh my goodness, all over the place today. Alright, so for our first product, let's talk about an item that I recently decluttered. So clearly the rating's not gonna be that high, but I am gonna give my honest, objective opinions, and let's talk about the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals Volume 1 palette. Will there ever be a Volume 2? Is their website even active, you guys? I was wondering that the other day. I'm like, are they even selling things? Because I mean, we all know Tati's like not on the internet right now. Yep, you can still shop the Textured Neutrals and the Blendiful. Okay, I'm gonna be talking about both of them today. Let's rate the Textured Neutrals palette though. I mostly decluttered this because I don't really wear neutrals all that much anymore and I wasn't reaching for it, but there were some positives to this palette. The positives being the mattes. Incredible. These mattes were so good. They were super blendable. I almost said blendiful. They were super blendable and just really user friendly, which is awesome because when I first started watching Tati's YouTube channel, I was a beginner to makeup and I really relied on her for beginner friendly product recommendations and beginner friendly techniques. So I was really pleased to see that her mattes were super blendable. Now the sequin row was good too. Those were also super blendable. I will say I like her sequin formula way better than ColourPop's. That's unfortunately the only one I really have to compare it to because I haven't tried many other sequin formulas, but hers was way nicer than ColourPop's because at least it didn't leave big chunks of glitter on your eyes. Now you couldn't really see the shimmer in all of them. The pink one was really pretty. Her like cream shade with the pink flecks. Oh, that was so beautiful. I loved that shade. But that row was kind of like, you know, bottom row, 10 out of 10. Sequin row, 8 out of 10. Metallic row, 4 out of 10. Furious. I was so furious at her metallics row because another thing I thought of when I thought of Tati is super sparkly metallic shimmers. And I was just so disappointed that her shimmer row was so lackluster. It really gave me vibes of like an Estee Lauder palette or a Lancome palette. You know, all of those higher end brands that are aimed towards a more mature audience that they don't think is gonna like shimmers, even though we all know that makeup has no age, and no matter what age you are, you can still wear beautiful sparkly shimmers. And Tati was a big advocate for that, so I was just very confused when her metallics were so bland. Very bland metallics. Oh my gosh, like I could never use one of these on their own. And I know she put glitters in there too, but I don't want to wear glitter every day. And Tati's glitter formula was pretty chunky, tough to take off. I mean, I know anytime you're taking off glitter, you have to be careful not to scratch your eyes, but with hers, it was pretty challenging. There were pretty big chunks of glitter in there, and I just didn't really reach for them very often. I wish the shimmers were enough to make the eye look super sparkly on its own. So the metallic row, like I said, would get a 4 out of 10. The glitter row, 5 out of 10, just because they were so chunky and there weren't enough variety of colors. Some of the colors looked way too close together, so I would knock some points down for that too. So overall, I would give the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals palette a 6 out of 10. Yes, I feel confident in that because there were some good elements to it, but I feel like for the price, I want it to be better. You know, it was $48. That's not cheap for an eyeshadow palette by any means. And I know she was a starter brand, so like obviously that tends to be a little more pricey, but I do just wish that some of the rows were better. I feel like, I don't know, maybe she should have started with a smaller palette, just stick to mattes and just make better shimmers. I don't know, I was so thrown off by the shimmers, it was so weird to me. But overall, I would give the Tati Beauty Textured Neutrals Volume 1 palette a 6 out of 10. Alright, I do really quickly just want to talk about the Tati Beauty Blendifuls because I bought them. I did. I had no intention of buying them when they were first announced. I too was a little disappointed in what they were, but then she made a video where she talked about some personal stuff and how the Blendiful, she was really proud of it and worked hard on it. And I was freaking God. You guys, I was different a couple years ago. I'm different now. I've grown, I've changed, but like seriously, you know what? You grow up, you learn, it's fine. I don't get got by those things as much anymore, but I did at the time. So here's my Blendiful. I have the little one here with me. There's a bigger one too. Put it on the screen. These are the Blendifuls. They come in a pack of 2. I think it was 18 bucks. And I was a little disappointed in these. I do still use them. I mean, clearly I'm traveling with this one, but my main disappointment with these is just that there's nothing really all that special about these in particular. Powder puffs are not new to the makeup industry. You can buy them literally at the drugstore. They have a lot of cheaper options and they all tend to work pretty much the same. I do like the effect I get with this. Like I use this little one to set my under eyes and I feel like it works pretty well. I do tend to like using this to set my under eyes better than a brush because I can really press it in there. I have very dry skin, so I try not to apply too much powder, so I like that I can dip this into my loose powder, rub a little bit on the back of my hand and just really press it in. So I do really like this, but I do only use it for setting powder. And I know that her whole claim with these Blendifuls is you could do your whole face with them. And I've tried doing my whole face with them, but it's just, it's not really for me. That's just not something that makes sense for me. I think a lot of people just kind of have their brushes they like using. You know, then you have to clean it so often. Do I clean this? Pfft, never. I think I cleaned my big one once. You guys, I'm gross. I don't clean my brushes enough. I have to. Somebody scold me, tell me to clean my brushes, so I'll do it. But yeah, this is just fine. It's an overpriced powder puff, but I think going off of the whole set, what would I rank this? Because it's not bad. It does work. That's the thing. It does work, but it's just not all that revolutionary. So I'll give the Blendifuls a 7 out of 10. They work, but are they overpriced? Absolutely. Do you need them? Absolutely not. If she sold the set of 2 for like 10 bucks, I think I would be giving this a 9 out of 10. No, I wouldn't. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10, but I think they're a little overpriced and just okay. All right, let's talk about another influencer makeup brand. Let's talk about Auric, you guys. I bought the Auric Glow Lust. I have the shade Morganite. It's the lightest shade, and y'all, that was so inorganic, I don't say y'all, but y'all, I'm wearing it today, and check me out. I love this so much. First of all, I have never held such a luxurious item in my hand. This is 100% without a doubt the most luxurious item I own, and it's got a price point to match. But I understand it with this product because obviously a lot of people have been comparing this to the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter for Hollywood Superstar Youth Glow, and I have both, so I can speak to the fact that I think this is better, and I think this value makes more sense for the product. Because the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter for Hollywood Superstar Youth Glow, one, name too long, and also it's $44, and the Auric Glow Lust is $45, so pretty comparable. My big gripe with the Charlotte Tilbury is that it's kind of cheap packaging. It is glass, which is great, but the top never turns around. I feel like I'm such a broken record about this. I'm always talking about the fact that the Charlotte Tilbury top doesn't fully screw on. It drives me nuts and all the letters rub off, and it's just like, very frustrating. The Auric Glow Lust is very luxe. Look at some frosted glass here. I feel like I could probably really conk somebody over the head with this. Not that I ever would. Oh, it also has more than 1 ounce in it. I didn't realize that. It has 1.18 fluid ounces. Wow. Okay, I think the Charlotte Tilbury one is just 1 ounce, so you're getting more product too. That's great. I don't think I will ever run out of this. There is just so much product in here, and you have to use so little. That's the other thing. It's just, I'm going on and on about what a great value it is, but I truly feel it's a great value. I'm even willing to waste a little right now because I use so little of it. I use like literally that much for my whole face. But look how thick and how much it rubs out. I mean, it's just, I want to drench myself in this. It's so pretty. I was a little about this product when I first got it because there was a bit of a learning curve. But that's just because I tried to use it the same way I use the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter for Hollywood Superstar Youth Glow, and that one's a lot thinner. You can use a lot more of that one. This one, if you use too much, you might look a little greasy, and I personally love to look a little greasy, but I used like a full pump and my face was like, stop, we don't have enough room for this. So you definitely don't need a lot with this. I'm giving a review. It's not a review, we're rating it. What would I rate this product? I don't want to give anything a 10 out of 10 because that's, there's no room for improvement there, and I think there can always be room for improvement. This is pretty darn close to perfect. I would give this a 9.5 out of 10. It loses half a point for not being the most user-friendly, but that's the thing, it is. If you know how to use it, if you know to only use a little bit, it's user-friendly. F it, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10, baby. It's just really good. Sam really knocked it out of the park. I mean, she knew what she was setting out to do. She made a product that's incredible. She was always a big advocate for the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter, and she made a better product, and that's so amazing. I can't wait to try more from the brand. I didn't buy the eye duos just because they were all very neutral, and I'm not a neutral gal, but I can't wait to see what Samantha Ravindal comes out with next because I think Auric is an awesome brand. All right, so those were all of the influencer makeup brand products I have to talk about. Now let's talk about some influencer makeup collabs because I've bought all of them for some reason. Let's start with the Jackie Aina and Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. So I don't have this palette with me right now, but I do still have it, and I have used it somewhat recently. I used it in my very chaotic Shop My Stash video. If you haven't seen that video, just go watch it. It's ridiculous. I made myself very, very dizzy. I fell down, I got nauseous. It was a whole gas, but I used that palette in that video, and it kind of revived my love for it a little bit. I do still have issues with this palette, but the shimmers in this palette, impeccable. They're so, so good. Better than regular Anastasia shimmers, in my opinion, because, I have the Modern Renaissance palette, we all did, and I thought those shimmers were pretty good. I tried the Jackie Aina palette, I was like, ma'am, hello, give Jackie her check, because she just really knocked it out of the park with these shimmers. I still reach for those shimmers, the shade Soleil. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna need them to come out with like a compact of Soleil so I can put it all over my face because that is one of the most beautiful highlight shades in the world. Now the issues I have with this palette are some of the mattes. So I believe when Jackie did her release video, she talked about some of the shades being more pressed pigments, but I just don't really like that Anastasia formula. And obviously that's not Jackie's fault, you know, there's only so much you can do about the formula. The formula's like, oh, they're gonna use. But I didn't really like the pressed pigment formula. Some of the shades I find to be a little difficult to blend. Like there's this one deeper purple shade that I want to love so much, but it's just a bit too much of a challenge to work with. It feels so hard. Like when you put your finger in it, you're like, oh, I feel like I have to rub so hard to get anything off. I do find some of the deeper mattes to be a little difficult to blend, except for Credit. Credit was easy to blend. That deep brown, beautiful. All of the chefs are kissing Credit, but the more like mauve-y shades, like Pinker is one I used in my Shop My Stash video that I could blend out, but it took a little more time, which when I first started using Anastasia's formula, I remember being really impressed at the blendability, but over time I just realized there are formulas I like a lot better. A lot of indie makeup brands do them formulas a lot better, especially with the mattes and pressed pigments, but it's just, I kind of grew out of the matte formula for this palette, and I wouldn't recommend this palette for the mattes. I would be recommending this palette to somebody for the shimmers for sure. And the color story is beautiful. Jackie did a great job with the color story too. So what would I give this palette overall? If you had asked me like when I first bought this palette back in 2019, I probably would have told you 10 out of 10. But being a little older, being a little wiser, having dipped my little tippy toes into more makeup, I can tell you this palette is a solid 7 out of 10. Because the shimmers are doing the heavy lifting here, baby. The shimmers are driving the construction truck, what do you call it? Tractor? The shimmers are definitely carrying that 7 in this palette, and the reason it's knocked down 3 points is just because of those mattes. And again, they're not the worst mattes in the world, but they're just not as user-friendly as my by Melolops mattes, as my Midas Cosmetics mattes. There's just so many good indie makeup matte formulas that I would reach for way more than this, so that's why it gets knocked down to a 7 out of 10, but it's still a solid 7 out of 10. Now, would I buy this palette right now was another question, because I'm not currently supporting Anastasia Beverly Hills because of all of the nonsense they've been pulling. Just look at their most recent face palettes. Are you kidding me? But I love Jackie, and I loved this palette for a long time, and I still do love this palette a little bit. The love is faded a bit, but I do still love her. Okay, let's move on to something else. All right, we're gonna talk about one more because I feel like I've already been talking for quite some time, but I have so many more I could talk about. Oh my gosh, let me know if you want to see a second video of this. I'm asking before the video's even over. Do you want to see a second video in this series? It could be a series. Because like I said, something happened to me in 2018, man. I don't know what it was. I bought so many influencer palettes. I still buy a lot of influencer palettes, but I tend to do more small influencer palettes now. And let's head down a small influencer palette, shall we? And let's on down an indie brand, shall we? Let's talk about the Beautbean X Shroud It's Freaking Bats palette. This palette is, wow, this palette could have a novel written about it because so much happened with the release of this palette. Also, I still have this palette. I just didn't travel with it, but it looks like this. Isn't she so pretty? But the drama behind this palette, if you want to call it drama, I'd say it was pretty dramatic. It was a dramatic time. But the drama behind this palette was that Shroud Cosmetics is a small indie brand. They did not expect Trend Mood to post about the Beautbean X Shroud palette, and they did, and a lot of people like me saw it and wanted to get our grimy little hands on it. So basically they didn't have that many palettes ready for pre-sale. I don't think they had any, actually. I'm pretty sure Beautbean said in the video that they were still waiting on the packaging, so I don't think any of the palettes were ready yet, but basically they didn't have the means to make a ton of palettes, and so I'll just say the pre-sale sold out in literally a minute. I was there though, baby. I had my shop pay ready to go, and I got it, but a lot of people did not get it, and a lot of people were really disappointed. I guess people didn't realize that there was a limited amount for pre-sale, so when it sold out, people were really upset that it sold out so quickly. And so Beautbean and the owner of Shroud, I think her name is Chloe, they came back at the end of the day and said they were gonna open up an unlimited pre-order. Personally, I don't think that was a good idea at all. They are still currently filling pre-orders. They might have finally just finished the last of them, but it took forever. I mean, they did give the disclaimer to people that like, hey, you can put in a pre-order, but it could be months before you get it. I don't think people expected 6+ months though, because this happened in October, and I know people who just received their palettes like days ago. So that was kind of the drama behind it. People were upset. They didn't feel like there was enough transparency coming from the owner. and just a lot of people had a lot of issues with this launch and just the way it came out. But all of this to say, we're gonna rate this palette objectively as if the launch went flawlessly, okay? We're just gonna talk about the quality of the product. I love this palette. I objectively love this palette. The shimmers are maybe my favorite shimmer formula ever. Like, they are so good. They're buttery. You truly feel like you're dipping your fingers in butter and you want to lick it, but you won't because it's eyeshadow and you shouldn't. But the duochromes in here are stunning. Probably my favorite purple shimmers ever. I use them a lot. They're so beautiful. However, I recently mentioned in my video, Makeup I Changed My Mind About. That was a really good video, go check it out. But I mentioned in that video that I changed my mind about the mattes in this palette. So when I first reviewed the palette, I felt that it was user error, that I had some issues with the mattes. I was like, you know what, freaking learning curve, baby. I gotta keep trying, I gotta keep working at it. Well, I kept trying and I kept working at it, and unfortunately, this is just not a matte formula I enjoy very much. I find that if you just pack these mattes on, they work pretty good, but if you try to blend them, patch city, baby. I found so much patchiness with these. I don't know if I just got a bad one because I've talked to a lot of people who didn't have the issue of patchiness, but in the comments section on my Makeup I Changed My Mind About video where I first talked about having issues with the mattes, I was floored by how many people said they had the same issues. So I don't know, it could have been a consistency error, it could be, I don't know, I feel like it's hard to say user error with so many people having the same error, you know? But I definitely had issues with the mattes in this palette, so that is going to knock down my rating a little bit, which is tough. You know, I know there's only so much the person creating this palette can do. Literally no hate to Beautbean whatsoever. Beautbean is a literal angel and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. But she did such a phenomenal job with this color story and everything. This is still one of my favorite palettes I've ever purchased because the shimmers are that outstanding. The shimmers are saving this palette for me. I would give this palette a 7.5 out of 10. Because the shimmers are, again, carrying the weight. This is the shimmers. They're shoveling, they're digging a hole to put the mattes in, but the shimmers are doing great. Oh, what an analogy. But I love the shimmers in this palette so much that I'm still giving it a 7.5 out of 10. That and the color story, the cohesiveness of it, the uniqueness of this palette. I don't think I've ever seen a color story like this before. So that is all really saving this palette for me. And I think a 7 out of 10 would be fair for the It's Freaking Bats palette. All right, you wild and crazy kids, that takes us to the end of this video. I hope you liked it. I don't know, do you guys even care about influencer makeup brands? Do you care about influencer collabs? I don't necessarily always care. Like I said, I've grown, I've matured a bit, and I don't feel the same need that I used to in 2018 to just buy influencer collabs because I like the influencer. I tend to buy influencer collabs if I like the product. So like there's I didn't talk about it in this video, but the Copacetic Cosmetics Companion Palette, which was done in collaboration with Monica Jones. I didn't know who Copacetic was, I didn't know who Monica Jones was, but I saw that palette and I was like, abso-freaking-lutely, that's a beautiful palette, and that's why I bought it. So I don't feel that same need to buy things for the influencer anymore, but I am fascinated by influencer collabs and I'm fascinated by influencer brands, fascinated by the process. I'm like, what were they thinking? Why did they make this? What is this a replacement for? What did they take inspiration from? Is the brand for the money? Is the brand for the love of makeup? Oh my goodness, there's just so many questions we don't have answers to. And I find it to be a super fascinating topic, so I'd love to know if it's a topic that interests you as well. So let me know if you want to see a part 2 in my influencer makeup series. And I thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Give a big thumbs up for my childhood artwork. Well, yeah, I think that's fair to ask. And let me know in the comments what influencer makeup you've bought before, whether that's an influencer makeup brand or an influencer makeup collab. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know what you bought and what you regret and what you love and what you'd rate it. So thanks for watching. Check out my description box for all of the makeup on my face today. It's quite a look. Also check out my description box for a bunch of Black Lives Matter resources, as well as resources to support the Asian American community. This month is also Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, so definitely check out those resources to support the AAPI community in my description. I would super appreciate it, and we should be supporting the Asian American community this month and always. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! I can't wait to see you again. I'll see you real soon. Bye!